Autumn is finally here. This is my first video of November and I'm so happy. This is my favorite season for so many reasons. The oversized sweaters that we get to wear again, and boots and cute jackets and scarves, as well as pumpkin and pumpkin spice. Also, all of my favorite holidays, I think, fall in the fall. So my birthday is in the fall, Halloween, Thanksgiving in the US, and Christmas. Those are all in the sort of fall. Christmas is a little bit pushing it, but the Christmas season and the spirit is here. So this is definitely my favorite time of year. So when I asked you guys on Instagram what kind of videos you wanted to see from me, Kimberly Grace asked about holidays and how we celebrate them in the US and in France. So I thought this would be a perfect video, and I even have my little fairy lights up too. So I'm super happy right now. In case you're new here, I am an American. I live in France. I've lived here for 2 years now, and I'm married to a French person, so I have pretty much an adoptive French family as well as, of course, my American family. So I'm most familiar, obviously, with American holidays, but I am slowly getting to know French holidays and how it's different and how it's the same and everything in between. All the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this video are based on my personal experiences as well as friends' experiences. I've talked to a lot of different people from the US, from France, people who have lived abroad in either country. So I'm sort of basing this off of a hodgepodge of different personal experiences. So you might have some different experiences or some different opinions on some of these things. Definitely leave those in the comments below. And also, if you have any other perspectives on how any of these holidays are celebrated in other countries, I would always love to hear it. You guys know that. I love talking about this sort of thing, especially when it comes to holidays and traditions. It was just recently Halloween, so let's start there. So a huge difference between the US and France is Halloween in general. The US goes absolutely insane for Halloween. We love it. All the kids will dress up in different costumes. Adults will dress up in different costumes. I am 25 years old, and this was the first year, I think, that I've not dressed up for Halloween, and I'm still sad about it. Different subdivisions in towns will have trick-or-treating nights. Sometimes they're Halloween, sometimes they're the night before. It sometimes depends on if there's a local parade on one of the nights. Houses will leave their lights on, the front porch lights, if they have candy, and you'll turn them off if you're not giving out candy so that people know which houses to go to, and it's just a huge deal. And then when you're teenagers and you get too old to trick-or-treat, you still dress up often because you have parties with your friends through university, and in your 20s you still have parties with your friends. And I know a lot of adults older than that who still continue to do parties. It's just a huge deal in the US. In France, on the other hand, it's not really a huge deal. Some people do Halloween parties even as adults, like my age, in your 20s, but mostly I think it's more of a kids thing, and even then I haven't seen a lot of trick-or-treaters. It's probably one of those things that if you live in a smaller subdivision, maybe there'll be trick-or-treating, but again, it's just not a huge deal. There is another huge holiday in France though where people will wear costumes, and that is Mardi Gras, or Carnival. I have to admit here, I have never participated in Carnival, so I am not an expert at all in talking about this, but I've heard plenty of stories, I've read plenty of things, and this seems to be the one where kids will dress up in sort of typical Halloween costumes, minus the fake blood, a lot less fake blood. But stuff like superheroes and princes and princesses and things like that, that's more of a Mardi Gras type of thing. And there's parades and food and just lots of spirit, just fun party spirit. In the US, as far as I know, most people don't really do too much for Mardi Gras. You probably have heard stories about the New Orleans Mardi Gras, and I know it's celebrated in similar ways all over the country and other places. I've never participated in that either. It's a little bit wilder. If you have any more experiences or insights about Mardi Gras, please do leave them in the comments below. I would love to know more, because this is definitely not where I shine, but it's very different. I warned you, fall holidays are my thing. Of course, this would not be a holiday video if we didn't talk about Christmas. So a couple of little things that I noticed about differences between French Christmases and American Christmases. Of course, they're gonna have to do with food, because that's basically where we both shine. We love food, we both overeat. There's no discrepancies with that. We're both very similar. But there are some little differences in what we eat and how we eat and when we eat. So let's start with the when. In France, from my experience, the huge thing is Réveillon, which is Christmas Eve. This is a very traditional thing. As far as I know, it's what most French people do. If you're gonna have a big Christmas meal, it is Réveillon. So it happens late on Christmas Eve. So it starts 7, 8 o'clock, and then you just eat your way into Christmas. It is glorious. There's family, there's food, you just eat and chat and eat and chat and roll right into Christmas. Literally, maybe, for some of us. In the US, it's typically Christmas Day, the actual 25th, when you have the big Christmas meal and the family event and all of that. For my family personally, it did sometimes vary because I had some extended family who had jobs that sometimes would require them to work on Christmas Day. So sometimes we'd end up scooching it around a little bit and doing a different day. But I'm pretty sure traditionally most people consider the 25th, Christmas Day, to be the big Christmas event with the meal and the family and all of that. The way the meal works is also a bit different. In my experience in the US, it's typically either a buffet style meal, if there's lots of family, if it's a big event, you line out all the food on a table and people can go through and you can fill up your plate as much or as little as you want. You can come back if you want for seconds or thirds. I did warn you about the overeating thing. We definitely do that. Or if there aren't too many people, or if you have a really big table, then sometimes you'll put all the food in the center of the table, and then typically I think one person or maybe a couple will take a dish and you'll just pass around each of the dishes to where every dish passes around the table and everyone has a chance to get a little bit of that food. In France though, I was actually kind of surprised to find out that it's a course meal. So you have first course, second course, third course, fourth course, fifth course. I mean, again, with the overeating, I warned you. Each course has maybe a couple of different dishes and it's a certain specific type of food. So appetizers first, and I can't actually remember the order it goes in. I'm gonna find out again in about a month and a half because I'm doing Christmas in France this year again. But you have, for example, a seafood course and a meat course and cheese course at some point, dessert course at some point. There's a lot of courses in between. I don't even remember. It's gonna be another adventure this year because I've already forgotten how it works. That also brings up the other question of what we eat, which is also a bit different. In France, like I just mentioned, there's a seafood course. And in my experience, I know I grew up in the Midwest where we're very landlocked and we have very little good seafood because we're so far from the sea. But a seafood course was never something I would have imagined. There's also quite predictably the cheese course in France, which is a huge deal, but that's also kind of a typical French thing that is at kind of a lot of traditional meals, but it's not at all American. We would never dream, I think, of having a special course for cheese. Typically it's in a dish and baked. So that is another thing actually in the US. We have a lot of casseroles and that sort of thing. Again, that might be my Midwesterner showing. Sweet potato casserole, green bean casserole, that sort of thing is very popular. Because I love fall holidays, this is definitely something that I've noticed, but France doesn't have quite as much autumn spirit. So there are definitely obviously seasonal foods that are in during the autumn, but in the US I feel like it's sort of centered around the holidays, but we have a lot of specifically autumn foods. These are normally foods that we eat at Thanksgiving, which is probably the reason, but there's lots of things like sweet potato casserole, pumpkin pie, pecan pie, things like that. Some of them cross over, like you can have a pumpkin pie at Christmas, or you can have, obviously pecan pie is very Christmassy, but there are specific foods that are very much Thanksgiving foods and very much Christmas foods, and that's sort of how we separate out winter from fall, I feel like, in a lot of ways. In France, there's not quite the same autumn craze that we have in the US. There's a little bit, I think, because of American influences, and the UK has picked up on a lot of the sort of pumpkin-y stuff I know as well, so therefore France has adopted a lot of it. But I feel like people start looking forward to just sort of cold weather things. Once it starts getting cold, people automatically start looking forward to Christmas, and you know, you don't have the pumpkin spice craze as much. You have, you know, hot chocolate and mulled wine and things that are very much just generically winter, or stuff that's kind of centered on the holidays. It really is just skip ahead straight to Christmas, and there aren't really those important holidays in between like Halloween and Thanksgiving, where in the US we're very marked. You know, October is dedicated to Halloween, November is dedicated to Thanksgiving, and then as soon as Thanksgiving's over, you have Black Friday and then right into Christmas. The last little difference that I have noticed is how stores and businesses respond to different holidays, and this is not just to do with Christmas or the holiday season. This is really to do with holidays throughout the entire year. In France, it is very typical for most businesses, even like supermarket chains and things like that, to close on holidays. And if they don't close, there are places in Paris that stay open. Paris probably is an exception for France, I would guess. But if they're going to be open on a public holiday like that, they will have a specific sign up, because it's definitely a question. It's very possible that they'll be closed. In the US, this is definitely something that smaller businesses might do, or maybe in smaller towns things will close down. But typically places like big supermarket chains and things, in my experience, will always be open, except maybe Christmas Day. Sometimes Christmas Day places will close. And there are more French holidays throughout the year, so that's definitely something that I've had to mark in my head. Every time there's a public holiday, I have to question, will I be able to go to the grocery store? Because it's very possible that I need to do my grocery shopping the night before. All right, I'm gonna stop rambling now because I feel like every single one of these has opened up a huge tangent. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more videos like this, kind of comparing my experiences in the US versus France, please do let me know. I would love to do more. Like I mentioned before, I will be spending Christmas Christmas in France this year. It'll be my second French Christmas, so I am so excited for that. I won't be vlogging or anything like that. I'm not gonna like go and stick my vlog camera in my in-laws' faces or anything on Christmas, but I will most likely be posting some stuff on Instagram. So if you're curious and you want to kind of keep up with that, definitely follow me there. That's generally a good place to get a hold of me anyway. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.